And to think the fat cats at Warner Brothers gave this film a modest budget in the hopes that it wouldn't get made. So you've all read this internet meme affirming that childhood is when you idolize Batman and adulthood is the realization that the Joker makes more sense, right? It denotes the eventual gray merger of white and black after growing up believing that those two colors were characteristic of dichotomies as old as time itself. You know, good versus evil, right versus wrong, order versus chaos, and all that jazz. In context, it speaks volumes about the Joker's eminence as a villain. This lunatic anarchist mastermind is interminably multifarious and conversing about his every last facet for years on end is a cemented certainty. The idea of a cinematic origin story for the Joker never really crossed my mind over the years, as the aura behind his Agent of Chaos character was partially derived from the unknown elements of his past. While this film technically isn't the inaugural attempt at providing the Joker with a foundational tale as it has been done in the comics, it is quite possibly the most audacious. I haven't a single clue as to how the nuts of The Hangover director Todd Phillips grew to the size of steel wrecking balls taking on a project of this scope, but I do know that all the words I was able to muster before writing this review were, Mr. Phillips, Mr. Phoenix, take a bow. You've earned it. The year is 1981. Unemployment is rife, corruption is rampant, crime is soaring, and ascending mounds of filthy garbage sacks mar the footways of the sprawling metropolis Batman calls home, Gotham City. This time around, the primary inhabitant of Gotham is an anguished, mentally afflicted gentleman going by the name Arthur Fleck. A former asylum patient now filled to the brim with meds, failed comedian Mr. Fleck scrapes a living as a clown for hire. When he's not working, performing improv at the local comedy club, or being on the receiving end of verbal and physical poundings, he dates single mother Sophie and resides in a dreary tenement with his ailing mother Penny, whose existence revolves around two things: late night TV host Murray Franklin, who Arthur idolizes, and a peculiar obsession with her former employer Thomas Wayne, a billionaire running for mayor. If you haven't seen the film yet, a spoiler-free series of events precedes Arthur's descent into insanity and subsequent metamorphosis into the world's favorite comic book icon. Society appears to be Joker's thematic linchpin. Look, civilization is admittedly a rather convoluted contraption, but speaking of it in a more streamlined manner, it was somewhat designed to eradicate desolation and loneliness. Paradoxically, Mr. Fleck is the diametric antithesis of the type of individual that society supposedly aimed to manufacture, because not only is he a loner, but a human black cloud, his overwhelming symptoms only exacerbated by the sorry excuse for a social order encapsulated in every fabric of this palpably decaying realm, searing itself into his weary eyes day after day. And how do the disproportionately wealthy arbiters of the system confront this cruel reality? Yeah. That's a good one. On the contrary, they do every conceivable thing possible to perpetuate this wretched status quo because it works in their favor. Adding further insult to injury, the propagandistic aspirational doctrines they churn out to the masses as to what constitutes the definitive human archetype is amplified tenfold. As a consequence, the commoners of Gotham would acquire this really detrimental mentality of competition against their fellow man and embark on a fool's errand in perpetual pursuit of wealth and material objects, thereby solidifying the evident human disconnect seen not just in this fictional film, but also in the majority of what the populace dubs the real world. Moreover, they become conditioned to just absolutely loathe deviations from synthetic norms, even if such deviations are really not of a man's own choosing. This is powerfully illustrated in Arthur's notebook of jokes and ideations, where he writes that the worst part about having a mental illness is that people expect you to behave as if you don't. Following a crucial plot point involving Arthur, 3 Wall Street type douchebags on a subway train, and a subsequent grassroots movement comprised of Gotham's fed up underclass, one could begin surmising that Joker is now a mere monochromatic leftist indictment of the reigning upper class. A volumed call to arms from society's most downtrodden members, right? Not so fast! While Joker indeed stimulates some much needed discourse on topical social concerns, the film's mystique, in my humble opinion, gyrates around its nuanced screenplay's premeditated ambiguity with regards to its implications. Professional critics who slammed Joker's plot for lacking a cohesive significance seem to have missed the point entirely. Mr. Fleck does not ascribe to any ideology pertaining to politics or life. When asked if he supported an uprising against the wealthy, He replied that he doesn't believe in that or anything for that matter. In fact, prior to his transformation, he even exhibited a penchant for altruism as he lived by this mantra of bringing people joy and making them smile. Yes, that all sounds like a maelstrom of conflicting notions, right? Well, you really don't need to be in the top percentile of Mensa performers to deduce that the human mind, let alone the mind of a mentally ill man like Arthur, is complicated and runs amok way more than we'd like to admit. The increasingly insurmountable hurdles that this life of ceaseless contradictions and flagrant hypocrisy kept propelling towards this vulnerable man have left him powerless in his quest for a purpose. In essence, Arthur Fleck is an existential nihilist coming to terms with the meaninglessness of living. When a man completely loses faith in the human race, has nothing left to lose, is untamed and acquiescent about an existence devoid of purpose, then this boundless universe is practically his for the taking. Therefore, in Arthur's eyes, the sole alternative to a constricting, man-made societal order laden with all of these glaring, soul-eroding deficiencies I already spoke of is to revel in the grisly and unpredictable arbitrariness of, you guessed it, anarchy. If you really deliberate on it, this line of thinking is rather true to the essence of Heath Ledger's character in The Dark Knight. The reason Joker hits so close to home is because such convictions are by no means a far cry from how an ordinary Joe might perceive the world around him. And this is elucidated in the film by a protester holding a sign inscribed with the words, "We are all clowns." Arthur as a clown wished to make people laugh until he became the butt of their jokes. Soon enough, he became aware of a more grim and colossal metaphorical joke in the grand scheme of things, one in which no logical person in the right mind would laugh at its contents because they were genuinely amused by what they heard. There would be allegorical laughter and applause, yes, and it would be in sheer agreement with the joke's authenticity, just like the reactions of the audiences of the late comedy legend George Carlin when he communicated his grievances regarding the government, society, and the planet as a whole in his skits. My final point is that Joker is a daring film of real talk that sugarcoats absolutely nothing and is unafraid to encourage viewers to take a long, hard look at the world around them and in the mirror and force them to ask the tough questions. After allowing this tour de force to marinate following my initial viewing, the eventual perplexing question I ended up ruminating on was, where does humanity go from here? Joker triumphs with flying colors in that respect and on pretty much every front, primarily because its astutely assembled screenplay opts for nuance, subtext, and clever misdirection instead of being on the nose about everything. Of course, the fuse of this dynamite script couldn't have been lit without the hauntingly evocative cinematography setting the mood, or the bona fide Mr. Joaquin Phoenix, whose Herculean transmutation of a performance's praises will be sonorously immortalized through song in the annals of history for generations to come. Woo! Look out Heath Ledger, eh? Joker is an exceptional film, my absolute favorite of 2019, and now we'll see if Marty Scorsese's The Irishman will reign supreme. So I'm gonna give Joker a perfect 10. And as for the insufferable Stephanie Zaharek, who in her cringe review of the film for Time magazine insulted not only the film, but Joaquin Phoenix's performance, right where the sun don't shine. So these were my thoughts on Joker. What did you think of the film? Let me know in the comment section below. And of course, if you like what I do, give me a like, hit that big subscribe button, stay tuned, and I will see you on the next one.